After winning 50 million, my wife cheated on my good friend. My brother was injured in a car accident, and my wife volunteered to take care of him. For half a year, she worked hard regardless of weather conditions. It was only on the day she was discharged from the hospital that I noticed that her abdomen was bulging, her face was pale, and she was suffering from morning sickness. David and I are truly in love, please help us be together. The one who is not loved is a mistress. Listening to the laughter of my brothers around me, I silently clenched the 50 million lottery ticket. Scumbag and bitch, then I wish you freedom. The fun starts right away. If you like it, remember to click to subscribe. You're finally discharged from the hospital. Let's go, let's get drunk today. Today is the day David is discharged from the hospital. He had a car accident half a year ago, and I was busy with projects and had no time to visit him. My wife volunteered to help take care of him, and she did so for half a year. My brothers held his hands and were about to leave, but I ran to Sophia immediately. Her eyebrows were furrowed, her face was pale, and she couldn't stop dry heaving. I was worried and took her back to the hospital. It's okay, I'm pregnant. It was then that I noticed her slightly bulging belly under her loose clothes. The smile froze instantly. I have been working at the construction site for more than half a year, so how could she get pregnant? The brothers who were originally making noises fell silent, looked at each other, and remained silent in embarrassment. I just felt the blood rushing back and my mind went blank. Wife, this child. David stood beside him, his expression calm. Be mine. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, and I was stunned. Concern was revealed in his brows. He leaned over and touched her belly. Sophia, is the baby making trouble again? Sophia shook her head and looked at him with eyes full of love. The brother beside him frowned unhappily and snorted. David, what do you mean? Michael came to welcome you, and you fucking slept with his wife? My heart was bleeding and my fingers loosened and then clenched. Try your best to suppress the emotions in your heart. Unexpectedly, David looked at me with disdain and sneered, this is called consensual. Besides, the one who is not loved is the mistress. Why do you blame me? Enough. I threw down the banner in my hand, gritted my teeth and rushed forward to punch him. He was caught off guard and fell to the ground. I treat you as a brother, and you treat me like this? I love cycling, and in terms of physical fitness, he is no match for me. After just 2 punches, he was unable to fight back. Stop. Sophia came over and grabbed my sleeve tightly, her peach blossom eyes full of alienation and displeasure. How long are you going to embarrass yourself? She supported David lovingly, as if he were a fragile treasure. You have no money, you're not handsome, and now you know how to beat people up. Why did I fall for you in the first place? I was speechless and had no idea how to explain it. David stood behind her, wiped the corners of his mouth weakly, and raised a sarcastic smile. When we passed each other, he bumped into me hard. The two got into the Magotan and left without looking back. The original welcoming banquet became a one-man show for me. I smiled wryly and apologized for disturbing everyone. You are right, who can bear this kind of anger? Christopher patted my shoulder, threw the banner to the ground and stomped on it twice. Let's go, we won't go home until we're drunk today. The lottery ticket in my pocket hurts my palm. Half a year is enough time for her to change her mind. The day after our wedding, I found a diary in her luggage. It is filled with love for David. Then I realized that they were childhood sweethearts. On the day of David's wedding, she was heartbroken and decided to make him angry. After much deliberation, he set his sights on his brotherhood. I am the scapegoat. I wrote that on purpose. In fact, I still love you the most. In my eyes, he is not as good as you. Sophia evaded the question lightly and continued to love me as she did before marriage. It's like making up for it, being doubly nice to me. She passed the exam, taught herself TOEFL, and finally joined David's company. Step by step, getting closer and closer to him. I was unhappy, but I didn't say anything. I just chose to take her home after the party. She fell into David's arms with a hazy smile on her face. When he saw me, he immediately became a different person. Who asked you to come? Don't you trust me? I explained that I came to pick her up because I was afraid she would meet bad people on the way. Don't drive your junky car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over here. It's not enough to embarrass me. David will take me back. They left as if I didn't exist. In the past few years, I have taken on projects and worked very hard just to give Sophia a good living environment. Change the house and the car, so that she can do what she likes without any worries. Knowing that she didn't want a child for the time being, I took all necessary measures every time. Unexpectedly, in her heart, I am still not as good as him. I had planned to go home today and tell her about my winning the lottery, but she turned out to be pregnant with someone else's child. Forget it, maybe we really are not destined to be together. I silently put away the lottery ticket, raised my glass and drank it all. Christopher patted me on the shoulder to make it clear that he was on my side. The other brothers also want to break up with David. That guy has a little money and can steal his buddy's wife. He is not a good person either. Under the influence of alcohol, his eyes were red. Go back and have a good talk. We all support you. I can't thank you enough. After 3 rounds of drinking, my head felt dizzy. I flipped through my phone and found that Sophia had posted a circle of friends. In the photo, she is pregnant and looks like she is living a peaceful life. The relatives thought it was my child and congratulated her from below. I smiled bitterly, feeling sad. He replied calmly, no. In less than 2 minutes, WeChat messages exploded. Sophia came to the hotel furiously. See, she doesn't believe me and installed a location on my phone. But I don't even have the right to have my fingerprints taken. What do you mean by that? Are you trying to judge me? You knew I was celebrating David's discharge from the hospital, but you still deliberately disgusted me online. You are so cunning. I stood there in a daze, having trouble breathing. She would assume the most evil things about me whenever it came to David. I looked at her, feeling hopeless. Does she remember that today is our 5th anniversary of love? I'm afraid I've forgotten it long ago. But some things still need to be done. Just consider it as the fulfillment of my wish. I took out the diamond ring from my arms and placed it in front of her. Sophia looked at me with confusion. When I got married, I was short of money and the diamond on the ring was very small. At that time, I secretly made up my mind that I must compensate her in the future. I wanted to give her a surprise. She frowned, and after a long while she said disdainfully, Michael, I don't like you lying. If you don't have money, you don't have to give it to me. Why are you trying to fool me with fake things? The last bit of hope in my heart was shattered by her own hands. That's how she thought of me. It was then that I noticed that she was wearing a pink diamond on her right hand. David had previously shared this pink diamond ring with his friends in a group chat. He said he bought it for his new girlfriend. The other brothers obviously also remembered this incident, and they turned to look at me. The air was eerily quiet. It turns out that the new girlfriend he was talking about was my wife. The diamond ring hurts my eyes. Now, there is no need to give it anymore. I put away the ring, opened my phone, and deleted her WeChat in front of Sophia. I was just being sentimental. Don't worry, I won't comment on it again in the future. Let's get a divorce. She originally wanted to argue with me, but after receiving David's call, her anger disappeared completely. Turn around and go back to find him. The meal was tasteless to me, so I found an excuse to go home and lay in my bedroom, staring at the ceiling. Once upon a time, Sophia was the sunshine in my life. During that time, I was experiencing a family change, and she quit her job without saying a word and stayed with me to take care of my grandfather, who depended on me for everything. Later, my father was also seriously injured and fell unconscious in the hospital bed. That night I stood on the rooftop, on the verge of collapse and almost committing suicide. She held me tight. Tomorrow, when the sun rises tomorrow, you won't want to come here anymore. I believed her. This letter lasted 5 years. Maybe she never had any feelings for me, and it was my fault that I delayed her for so long. It's time to let go. I got up early in the morning and contacted a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. It's mine, and I won't leave a single cent for them. The money for the lottery was paid by my mother, so naturally it went into her hands. I contacted Sophia, but the voice on the other end was David's. Sophia is still sleeping, what do you want? He knew for sure that I would get divorced, and he kept talking to himself. Pregnant women are different. They are much more passionate than usual. Michael, I feel sorry for you that you can't sleep with me. Damn it, what did he think of Sophia? I clenched my fists and pounded them on the bed. There was a chuckle from the other side. Then came the rustling sounds and the sounds of saliva from kissing and panting. David did it on purpose. Hate it, why is your phone still on? Turn it off. With a beep, the call ended. My vision went dark and I half knelt on the bed, my heart aching so much that I couldn't breathe. 5 years in, I never thought it would end this way. My feelings are worthless. They threw my self-esteem to the ground and trampled on it without any mercy. Looking at the empty house, scenes of my time with Sophia flashed before my eyes. She packed her luggage into a box and drove to where David lived. When David opened the door and saw that it was me, he subconsciously covered his bruised mouth and took a step back. David, who is it? Sophia stood still with a smile on her face. Then I realized that she was wearing a loose white shirt, revealing her two slender long legs. Her figure was faintly visible, and she looked particularly sexy. She hurriedly covered her body with a towel and asked, "Why are you here?" Humph, I should be the one asking her this question. The moment she saw the suitcase and the divorce agreement, her face suddenly changed. After a long while, he sneered. "Well, I didn't expect you to be so courageous." When their eyes met, there was nothing but coldness and mockery in her eyes. My heart sank completely. "Tell her I will have Dee Dee Moving Company transport the remaining luggage." "No, David will buy me new ones, you can keep the broken ones for yourself." She snuggled sweetly in his arms, and the two of them were very affectionate. David even promised her that as long as she gave birth to the child, she would have everything she wanted. He took out a stack of envelopes and placed them in front of me. "It is said to be compensation for divorce losses. Not to mention that I have lottery tickets now. Even if I didn't, I wouldn't care about the money he gave me. I'm just curious because I haven't heard any news about David's divorce. They are living together so blatantly behind their spouses' backs? What do you know? David felt sorry for me because I was pregnant and it was inconvenient to hold a wedding. After the baby was born, he immediately divorced that old woman. I am his true love." I looked at him inquiringly, but David refused to look me in the eyes. "As far as I know, his wife is the CEO of a listed group. The two powerful companies have joined forces and are a perfect match. Would he stay with her after divorce for the so-called love? That's enough. How can a poor guy like you understand love? Stop second-guessing us." Sophia was eager to break up with me, and she signed the divorce agreement neatly, with the white paper flying up and landing at my feet. Without even looking at me, she turned and left, pulling her beloved. With a bang, I was isolated from the outside. I picked up the agreement calmly, but my heart was still bleeding. "This time, I really broke up with you." On the way back, I received a message from Christopher. "Tomorrow is my childhood friend's wedding, and he has invited us all to attend. David is included. He doesn't know about this yet. If you go there tomorrow, someone will definitely give you instructions." Christopher looked at me worriedly. With almost no hesitation, I nodded in agreement. "Of course I have to go. It's not me who will be embarrassed." I immediately exchanged my lottery ticket and bought a new outfit. Also changed the car. From a distance, it does look like that. Christopher and I took our seats one by one and chatted and laughed with the brothers present. Not far away, Sophia, wearing a plain long dress, walked slowly towards them holding David's arm. The originally noisy private room suddenly became quiet and everyone looked at each other. "You guys came really early, and you didn't inform David in advance. You made us really anxious." Sophia adjusted her skirt and sat down seriously. He raised his eyes and met mine. His eyes were full of impatience. The brother who was the host was dumbfounded. He stood awkwardly among us, picked up the wine glass, and didn't know what to say. What were they thinking? How embarrassing. Yes, she's newly married, but he's married for the second time, so he doesn't think it's unlucky. It was supposed to be his wedding day, but David brought Sophia to ruin the party. I looked at him with pity and stuffed the gift money into his hand. "It's not appropriate for me to be here with certain people at this kind of occasion. You're a newlywed, so don't let us influence you. Let's get together alone someday." I said hello and stood up to leave, but David, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly slammed the table and stopped me in a harsh voice. "What do you mean?" I comforted Christopher behind me and told him not to be impulsive as I didn't want to make a big deal out of this. After all, this is someone else's wedding. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell whether what you did was right or wrong. I don't want to argue with you here. I took a step closer and he held my wrist tightly. "Pull it to the wall." He was like a bloodthirsty beast, commenting on me excitedly, and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear. "You're already cuckolded, so I might as well tell you that Sophia is just my surrogate mother. I'll kick her out as soon as she gives birth." Those black eyes rolled back and forth excitedly, very satisfied with my reaction. "He is such an inhuman being. Are you worthy of her?" I raised my hand, but before it fell, David pretended to be in pain and fell to the ground. It hurt so much that he kept crying out in pain. But I didn't touch him, he was just pretending. Sophia ran over distressed, covered his face, turned around and yelled at me, "You're going too far. Why did you hit him?" I was so anxious that I didn't know how to explain, so I had to point at the brothers next to me. The people at their table could clearly see that I just raised my hand and didn't touch him at all. Yes, sister-in-law, Michael didn't touch him. Seeing Sophia being deceived, I was extremely anxious and wanted to tell her the truth. He had only said half of his words when she was scolded harshly. David is not that kind of person. He loves me very much, more than you do. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You borrowed such high-end clothes on purpose, isn't it just to make me feel guilty and change my mind? You will never be as good as David in this life or the next. Tears welled up in her eyes and she supported David and slowly left. Before leaving, David even winked at me slyly. My legs felt weak and my chest ached. Am I so unbearable in her eyes? Christopher clenched his fists and secretly took off his glasses to wipe his tears. That bitch doesn't deserve you to treat her like this. I'll introduce you to 10,000 of them. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. The originally gloomy atmosphere was also cleared away by him. David's words are still ringing in my ears, and I stare at my palms in a daze. Since this is the path she has chosen and the life she has determined, I will fulfill her wish. A banquet worth 1,000 gold, giving birth to a child and abandoning the mother. I decided not to meddle in other people's business. Wish her good luck. Christopher kept his word and actually introduced 2 girls to him. I rejected them all. If nothing else, I want to develop my career and don't want to get involved in emotional matters anymore. I used the money I won from the lottery to start a company with Christopher. I sold my previous wedding house and bought a large flat near the company. I have a big golden retriever. Sophia said before that she didn't like dogs, so I never bought one for her sake. Now that I am free from love, I look at the golden retriever at my feet with a smile, my eyes full of happiness. My phone beeped a few times, and when I opened it, it was full of abusive messages. Whose dog is so annoying? It makes people restless. I'm still pregnant. If anything happens to my child, I'll eat your dog. The man cursed and was besieged by other owners. I frowned. There was a knock on the door. Your dead dog. I just opened the door and met a pair of familiar eyes. Sophia? Her pregnant belly was particularly obvious, and she became swollen and fat. When he saw me, he was obviously startled. Why are you here? She was stunned for 2 seconds, then she saw the golden retriever behind me and screamed, Is that dog yours? I nodded. What a coincidence, we meet here. It turns out she lives downstairs from my house. How can a poor boy like you afford to live in a house like this? I see. Did you deliberately follow me and rent a house here? I've already told you I won't get back together, why are you still going on and on? There was such contempt in her eyes that I couldn't help laughing. I used to think she was confident, but I didn't expect her to become arrogant now. She really thought I rented the house for her. The golden retriever behind me was barking wildly, obviously not liking her as much as I did. Let me reiterate, I am not here for you, please respect yourself and don't spread rumors. Also, if you dare touch my dog, I will call the police immediately. Sophia was so angry that her face turned black. She bit her lower lip and glared at me. Why are you yelling? My son is much more noble than a dog like you, don't you know that? I looked at her coldly and faced reality again. I just misjudged the person before. In the past, she had normal values and would not be so arrogant and domineering. Everything has changed now. I turned my head and soothed the golden retriever. Stop barking, okay? She crossed her arms, a smug look on her face. She seemed satisfied that I listened to her. In the past, I never contradicted her, and whenever she made a request, I would do it immediately. Afraid that she would be unhappy. Looking at the obedient golden retriever, I touched its head with satisfaction. You are so obedient. You can bite people, but you can't bite your companions. Sophia lowered her raised lips, frowned, and said sternly, Michael, who are you calling a dog? I ignored her, turned around and slammed the door shut. Block out her scolding. To me, she is really not as important as golden retriever right now. Whether she gives birth or not has nothing to do with me. Even though I saw her and David being intimate in front of me, my heart was calm and there was no ripple at all. In the elevator, she stomped her feet hard. I know she is unhappy that I don't care about her. According to her idea, I should always stay around her and have no regrets towards her. Even if we get divorced, I will still stand behind her silently. I just stepped out of the elevator and treated her as air. I won't bother you anymore. The company run by Christopher and I is thriving and has achieved some success among peers in the industry. Developed a pension terminal app. It triggered a market trend after its release, and many companies wanted to cooperate with us to realize online terminal procurement services and achieve a win-win situation for the elderly care industry. Christopher was excitedly selecting companies, muttering to himself. This dairy product has bad reviews. No, no, no. His housekeeping is pretty good, you can give it a try. He was flipping through the pages, and suddenly he looked at me with shining eyes. David Group's electronics industry actually wants to cooperate with us. We are really popular. David Group? I was stunned for 2 seconds, stopped what I was doing and looked at him. He obviously just reacted and looked at me belatedly. David, isn't it David's father's company? He is a playboy and has always been a figurehead in the company. To put it bluntly, he is the kind of rich second generation who is idle and has nothing to do. Christopher sent the document to my WeChat with a smile. President Michael, let's go and find a place to fight. Find it, you must find it. If you don't seek revenge, you're a bastard. The moment the email receipt landed, we searched through our closet. Finally decided to go in flip-flops and casual clothes. The purpose is to give his family a slap in the face. The hotel entrance was magnificent, with 2 etiquette officers standing on both sides. I could clearly feel their disdainful looks. I'm afraid they think of us as idle people with nothing to do. We both wandered around, picked up our goblets, and ate our cakes as if nothing had happened. You have to say, the things in this high-end hotel are just different. I heard that their boss is just a young boy. How can he compare with you? David had his back to us and was chatting with an old man. Probably David's father. That's because you are young and capable, which is better than you being ignorant and fearless. The old man coughed twice, walked to the door and looked around, as if he was still waiting for us. Why are you here? The scolding scared Christopher, who was eating egg tart. He almost choked. I patted his back nervously and looked at David unhappily. Why are you yelling? Can't you see he's eating? If you scare us, you'll have to pay for the medicine. David raised the corner of his mouth indifferently and snorted coldly. There was sarcasm in his words. I'm telling you, this kind of place isn't for people like you. Get out of here if you know what's best for you. He comes here to eat cake. He is indeed a poor man. After he said that, he burst into laughter, and his laughter attracted David's father, who was not far away. When he saw us again, his face changed. Where did you come from, you bastard? Get out now and don't mess with our distinguished guest. Anyone can get in here. The security captain beside him was obviously scared to death and ran over with his head nodded and bowed. He hurriedly took out the registration book. They sternly demanded that we tell them our names and contact information, and would only compensate us after the signing of the contract was completed. Christopher and I slowly introduced ourselves, curling our lips in disdain. As expected, the richer you are, the more you get deducted. That little cake is only worth a few dollars. Wait, your name is Michael? David's father looked through the phone book and dialed the number. How come there is someone with the same name? The next second, the phone in my arms made a deafening sound. David's father looked pale and stared at me. I pressed the speakerphone button and a voice came through the receiver. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that I am the poor boy you mentioned. He is also the person in charge of this elderly care cooperation, Michael. I shook my head with pretended regret, pulled Christopher up and was about to leave. David's father immediately blocked my way. Mr. Michael, this is a misunderstanding. I thought you. He hesitated for a long time, obviously unable to think of a better way to put it. With a bang, David slammed the wine glass down and punched me hard on the shoulder. Bullshit, how could you possibly develop this kind of software? You are just a poor boy, without any ability or ambition. Well, I can only say that he really doesn't know me well enough. No matter what, he's better than a rich kid like you who only knows how to steal other people's wives, right? David was touched by my suggestion and was about to hit me with his fist. Being scolded by the old man. I raised my eyebrows and looked at him provocatively. Christopher was not to be outdone, and also said sarcastically beside me, while you were having fun, we were doing research and development and starting a business. We have already left you far behind. What's the point of pretending? David's father looked at us in confusion and asked if we knew each other. If you know David, I can help him apologize for any mistakes I made before. I hope you can look at the company's products without any prejudice and reach a cooperation. No prejudice? His son is my biggest prejudice. I'm sorry, it's not fair. Your son stole my wife and gave birth to a child. I think no man can stand it, right? David's father swallowed awkwardly. He gritted his teeth, as if he had made up his mind, and patted David's back with his big hand. Make a muffled sound. Hurry up and apologize to Mr. Michael. David obviously didn't expect his father to do this, and he stared at him with wide eyes. Not only did you destroy someone's family, you also offended the company's distinguished guests. I should teach you a lesson both emotionally and rationally. Christopher and I looked at each other, trying not to laugh. Unexpectedly, the old man was willing to let him apologize. David was just a stubborn ass, standing there motionless. I pretended to sigh and shook my head. If your company doesn't show its attitude, I can't force you to do anything. David's father got anxious and hit David on the calf with his crutch. His knees weakened and he almost fell to his knees in front of me. I squeezed out the word sorry from between my teeth. I scratched my ears and said, I can't hear you. David gnashed his teeth, his handsome face was deformed with anger. Sorry. Well, that's an apology. David's father looked at me hopefully, hoping that I would consider their company. After showing off enough, Christopher and I left in a swagger. Cooperation is impossible. Just wait for them to cry. Naturally, this cooperation did not come to fruition. According to those in the industry, David's dad was furious and almost kicked them out. If it weren't for the child, David would have been kicked out long ago. As a result of this incident, Sophia, who was originally scheduled to give birth in September, was admitted to the hospital early. The ambulance drove past in a hurry, and its bright red light illuminated the night. I had a good night's sleep. When I woke up early in the morning, I received news from my distant cousin. She took a photo and asked the pregnant woman lying there if she was Sophia. In the picture, Sophia was half sitting on the bed, stretching out her hand to stop David. And David was holding a newborn baby in his arms. This is snatching children? I answered her yes and asked about the situation. This family is so wicked, they blatantly took the child away and didn't even let the mother see it. It is said that he used her body to bear a child, and they were not married. The man left tens of thousands of dollars and ran away. She sent me an emoticon and asked me mysteriously, would you like to come and have a look? After thinking about it, I decided to refuse. I know without guessing that Sophia must be very worried and busy looking for her child. I won't go over there, lest I get into trouble. I reminded her a long time ago that she was the one who thought she was the true love and the original wife was just an accident. Now it can be considered as God's punishment to her. Thinking of this, I feel very happy. The previous haze was also swept away. I took my golden retriever out for a walk and spent 2 days with him at a nearby tourist attraction. When I got home, I put my hand on the electronic lock. It's strange. I clearly wiped my fingerprints clean before leaving, so how come there are such clear fingerprints again? I pushed the door open doubtfully, and the golden retriever rushed in first, barking wildly. Sure enough, there is someone. Sophia was so frightened by the dog at this time that she stood on the sofa, hugging a pillow to protect herself. When it saw me, it acted like it saw a savior and hurriedly asked me to drive it away. Why is she here? How did she get in? Sophia's face was sallow, showing signs of malnutrition, and her lips were bluish-purple. She was afraid of the golden retriever and dared not move from a distance. I had no choice but to let the dog go to my bedroom first. Michael, I knew you still loved me. Her eyes were full of joy and she wanted to hug me. I took a step back to create some distance. Not to mention anything else, even if there were no women in the world, I would never go back to you. The things she did are still vivid in my mind and I can't forget them. I know you still love me. Look, even the password to unlock the door is the days we were in love. She raised her head proudly, as if waiting for me to affirm her. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I see. That day was my birthday. There's nothing wrong with me setting my birthday as my password. Then why did you let the dog into the bedroom? Aren't you worried that I would get bitten and feel sorry for me? She still didn't give up and continued to find clues to prove that I loved her. It's a pity that things are no longer the same as before. The rabies vaccine is quite expensive. I just don't want to spend the money. What on earth is she going to do? During this time, I have come to understand that it is my fault. I did not cherish you well. Can you give me a chance? I want to make it up to you. I shook my head and sighed helplessly. He pried her fingers apart with force, not wanting to have anything to do with her anymore. I am no longer the Michael who would go all out just because you hooked your finger on me. You were the one who severed our relationship with your own hands. Now that the child has been snatched away and your dream of marrying into a wealthy family has been shattered, you're thinking of coming back to find me. I looked at her panic with sneer and contempt. Come on, I'm a picky eater too. Sophia swayed and could barely stand. Tears dripped from my right eye. You know everything? She stumbled over her words and couldn't even utter complete sentences. When facing the person I once loved deeply, my eyes were filled with helplessness. No one can be wrong all the time. But she can. Haven't you ever thought about it? How come they suddenly fell in love with you after years of not having children? If I really love you, why would I not give you any guarantees, but just write you a blank check, refuse to divorce or register, and even refused to let you enter the David family's mansion. She stepped back repeatedly, her legs hitting the coffee table with a crisp sound. The man squatted on the ground in almost despair. He held his head in disbelief, his eyes red. So, is there really no chance for us? There is none left. Not at all. But after we divorced, your career flourished and you even lived in such a nice house. Isn't it because of your emotional failure that you worked so hard? If we hadn't separated, you wouldn't have achieved this, if. She stumbled, and her withered body swept towards him like a falling leaf. I yelled, "That's enough." She paused, her shoulders shaking slightly. Do you think my career success is because you dumped me? Why, I tried so hard before, but you couldn't see it. I might as well take this opportunity to make everything clear at once. When I came to see you that day, I won the lottery, 50 million. Her eyes lit up instantly. That's my mother's money. It has nothing to do with the couple's property. You are the one who is not worthy of it. You can't blame me. I opened the security door and pulled her out. Don't come here again. Give yourself some dignity. Find the person you really should be looking for. No matter how hard she banged on the door, I didn't open it. I changed the password of the door lock through my mobile phone and took out snack bars to feed the dog. Sophia was eventually kicked out by the property management. The property downstairs is in David's name and has nothing to do with her. David sold the house, so she naturally had nowhere to go. He wanders around the vegetable market during the day and disappears at night. I was flipping through my computer in the company when Christopher walked up to me mysteriously with his cell phone in his hand. Michael, I'm going to show you something exciting, don't be afraid. I raised my brows, and what came into view was the photo of David lying on the ground. He was lying in a pool of blood with a kitchen knife beside him. How much hatred must one have to commit murder in a parking lot? I was dumbfounded and asked him what was going on. Christopher hesitated for a long time before he started to speak. I heard that Sophia waited in ambush at his home and stabbed David 13 times, knocking him unconscious. She took the baby away while the confinement nanny was running away. What? Killing people and snatching children in the street? I had a hard time understanding Chinese and looked at him in amazement. You think she won't go crazy and find us? Why don't you bring your luggage over here? What if she comes looking for you? My heart skipped a beat. Sophia couldn't run far since she was holding the child. But just in case, I still took my luggage to the company and stayed there for 2 nights. On the 3rd day, the police arrested Sophia. Just the photos taken at the scene made everyone sigh. The child was displaced throughout the journey and became seriously ill and had a persistent fever and remained unconscious. By the time the police arrived at the scene, Sophia had become frantic. She held the child tightly to her chest and tried to feed her. For a moment, I was speechless. Sophia's eyes in the photo are confused and frightened, like a little animal hiding in the bridge hole. I remember when we were in love, she always joked about whether she would sleep under a bridge with me if she ran out of money in the future. At that time I said I would sleep alone and let her stay in a hotel. Unexpectedly, it came true. I closed the report and worked overtime alone until late at night. It was not until the first ray of sunlight in the early morning shone on my body that I felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation. It's all over. Later, Christopher and I developed another software, which is the 2.0 version of the elderly care series. The old man of the David family overcame all objections and paid an extra $200 million to win the full development and endorsement of the software. Of course, no one can resist money. Christopher and I took the money and traveled around the world together, having a great time. When I came back, it was 5 years later. The trees are still there, but the people have changed. Christopher started a family and worked hard every day to earn money to support his family. And I was all alone, with only the golden retriever by my side. We have been steadily building up our business in this city and have established our own group company. As I passed by the bar, I was attracted by the noise inside. Through the car window, I saw a woman wearing revealing clothes, standing in the alley next to the bar soliciting customers. An 80-year-old man touched her and even tried to do it in the street. The woman screamed and pushed the uncle away. His son slapped him and started punching and kicking him. The woman lay dying beside the garbage dump. Faintly, I seemed to see a familiar face. Christopher looked at me in confusion. Michael, you want to go to the bar? I shook my head and motioned for her to drive away from this poor area. Sophia's life or death has nothing to do with me anymore. From now on, the bridge will be the bridge and the road will be the road. I want to move in all directions, leading to where you want to go.